going to call this meeting to order, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation and Public Works Committee. This day, September 11th, 2018. I am joined by my colleagues, Councilmember Johnson, Bender, and Gordon. We are a quorum, and we'll proceed with today's agenda, of which we have 10 items, 3 of which are public hearings, but I'll go through the consent items. Any committee member can pull them for further conversation. Starting with item 4, contract term and notice amendment with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the ABC ramp management. Item 5 is the contract amendment with Sheehy Construction Company to complete condenser upgrades for ramps A and C. Item 6 is the sanitary sewer service availability charges, setting that public hearing, which will be October 23rd, 2018. Item 7 is the Fremont Avenue South Bridge over Midtown Greenway project and layout. Item 8 is the bid for revised signal system, storm sewer, and pedestrian curb ramp improvements project. Item 9 is the regulations on disposal of fats, oils, and grease, locally known as our FOG initiative. Item 10 is the consolidating sanitary sewer and requirements ordinance. I believe Councilmember Gordon wishes to yield the floor for number 4.
Thank you very much. I have a quick question for staff. I know this is, we're really just authorizing a letter going to the state about the extension of this, our intention to extend the term of the ramp management agreement. And I just am curious about when this is going to come back to the council then. Are we going to review any changes to that contract and we'll have an opportunity to approve that?
Director Hutchinson?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Gordon, thank you for the question. This is a simple renewal of an existing contract without changes to terms. Later, the City Council will get a much lengthier update and more information about an in-depth study on how the ABC ramps can change. I believe that's the information that you're looking for that is still forthcoming. What we have today is fairly routine with no changes to the existing contract.
And my question was, when is the later going to occur?
I would like to invite Tim Drew to come up and answer the question. Tim, our parking systems manager, has a little more information on the timing of development of that information.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Drew.
Good morning. Hello again. My name is Tim Drew. I'm parking system manager for the city of Minneapolis. To answer the question is that this is just it's a 6-month notice of intent to continue a contract. It's a contract between the city and the state. We are actively working with the state right now to in discussions with another contract, which is the maintenance and operation, which is mostly between federal and state. But we're working on that, and we anticipate coming back to council sometime about July of 2019.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know that some people saw this on the agenda and started asking questions about, well, how could we make more out of these ramps? It's quite a massive piece of infrastructure. The pedestrian experience isn't necessarily very pleasant there. Could they be activated on the first floor more? Could we do more incentives or work on carpooling, charging stations, car sharing, those kinds of things? So I appreciate that we're looking into those things and we're going to explore those. I think that's a fantastic idea. I think there might even be ways to have other initiatives there, and I think that people would appreciate it. My understanding is we're kind of operating off an agreement and some ideas we had back in the 1980s or 1990s. This is a very old idea and notion, and I think refreshing kind of how those ramps work and how they work for us, and that whole area there has certainly changed dramatically since then, will be really important. So I'm just putting that out there, encouraging you to go and explore what we can do to kind of make this a better area of the city.
Okay, yep, Chair Wright, Councilmember Gordon, all of those items are part of our discussions that we're having. The ramps have been around for approximately 25 years, and there's been a 25-year symposium where a lot of those elements are being discussed, and we're working on making those type of changes to the ramps.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm sure the local businesses and the downtown council and all those people would also like to be involved, in stakeholders, and it sounds like they're engaged in this too.
Chair Wright, Councilmember Gordon, yes, that is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And even though they were built in the late 80s, they were conceived in the late 60s. So just give a little history to the ABC ramps. All right. Thank you. With that, is there any further conversation? Council President Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to briefly comment on item number 7.
Please do.
This is a bridge over the Midtown Greenway in the 10th Ward, and I just wanted to highlight this and our appreciation, my appreciation for the city and county coming together to find funds to fix a structurally deficient bridge in one of the densest residential neighborhoods in our city that has seen thousands of new residents come in, and this bridge has been inaccessible for automobile traffic. Unless there are significant changes to the draft comprehensive plan, our city will continue to grow primarily in neighborhoods that are already very dense in terms of residential and commercial uses. And so I think infrastructure investments like this one and the many other structurally deficient bridges that are along the Midtown Greenway are really important to keep these neighborhoods livable and accessible and able for people to get around. And so this is just one of many of those needs, but this became kind of an emergency when the bridge needed to be shut down. And we appreciate, I think, Public Works' attention to safety as the primary goal, that the inconvenience of having the bridge down was secondary to making sure people stayed safe. And so that's really appreciated too. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting that, Council President Bender. Any other item? Seeing none, I will move the items on consent as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. We'll now go to the public hearing portion of the agenda, starting with item 1, which is Special Service District 2019 Proposed Services and Charges. Director Hutchinson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Chair Reich, and members of the committee. We have 3 public hearings today. All of them are related to special service districts. This is, of course, the time of year when we gear up for the next year's work. I'm going to introduce Andy Carlson with Transportation Maintenance and Repair, who will, I'm just going to have you roll number 1 to number 2. We'll introduce and provide information on a set of districts, and then as well the West Broadway district.
Good morning, Mr. Carlson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, council members. My name is Andrew Carlson, and I'm the project manager for Special Service Districts. So since Special Service Districts are the public hearings today, I thought I'd give some broad background first before we get into the 2019 budget request. So a Special Service District allows property owners in a commercial area to collectively impose service charges on themselves each year to create a pool of funds. 100% of those funds are directed back into the district in the form of enhanced services and amenities. These enhanced services and special amenities are above and beyond what the city ordinarily provides. Each special service district is guided by an advisory board, which is composed of property owners or their representative within the district. Each advisory board recommends the services, service frequencies, estimated budget, and service charge methodology for their district. SSD service charges are paid via a regular property tax on regular property tax statements issued by Hennepin County. The funds are transferred from the county to the city, which are then used to procure the services described in their annual work plan and budget. The City of Minneapolis Department of Public Works, or the district management entity in the case of self-managed districts, implements the recommended services most often via a competitive bid contract through third-party vendors. The city provides all advisory board administration, procurement services, contract management, and vendor performance monitoring. Advisory board members also monitor service delivery throughout the year to ensure services are meeting the expectations of the property owners within the district. In short, SSDs are highly effective public-private partnerships that make significant annual investment towards improving and maintaining the city's public right-of-way. So I can pause there for a moment if there's any general questions with regards to SSDs and how they operate. Otherwise, I can get right into the 2019 proposed budget and service charges.
Any questions for staff at this point? Seeing none, please
All right,
proceed.
we'll keep rolling. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for clarification, right now we're dealing with the 428A districts, which refers to Minnesota state statute, which grants municipalities the authority to establish SSDs by local ordinance. All the special service districts before you today were established under this statute. Coming up on October 9th, before this committee, I'll be presenting our legacy districts, all of which predate the 428A statute. So today before you, we have the 50th in France, 54th in Lindale, Bloomington Lake, Chicago Lake, East Lake, and Lindale Lake Special Service Districts, all seeking approval of their 2019 proposed services and service charges. The combined budget cost estimate for these districts for the coming year is $497,400 in private investment, which will be made to Minneapolis public right-of-way. So back in June, Public Works staff worked with each district advisory board to recommend the services, prepare the estimated budgets, and review their assessment methodologies for the coming year. These service charges would be collected in 2019 real estate taxes in the same manner as special assessments. Each affected property owner was mailed a notice of public hearing with the service charge amount 10 days in advance of today's hearing. Therefore, staff recommends the passage of resolution approving the service charges and budget cost estimates, service charge and the list of service charges, and directing the city engineer to proceed with the work. That is my presentation, and I will stand for questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. This is for public hearing item number 1. We do have people who have signed in. I will go through them in order, starting with Mr. Doug Willett. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Council. Doug Willett from 3608 West 50th Street, Willett Bakery. I'll just read quickly what I believe you guys have this letter as well, but I'll go through this quickly and then any questions we can deal with then. I'm contacting the council in regards to the Special Services District in South Minneapolis. Willett Bakery has attempted to cease our participation in this Special Services District. We have appeared in front of the council the last 2 years to no avail. This year we met with the advisory committee to voice our wishes, and they did make some changes to the district boundaries this year, which does decrease our obligations some, but that is not our point. We at Willett Bakery have a big parking lot and sidewalk, which we need to maintain ourselves anyway. So to take care of our sidewalk is just a small part of what we have to do, and we can handle this with our own people. The cost to us is minimal to do the sidewalk, and we've done this for our entire existence before this district was formed. We never wanted to participate in this district from the beginning, and when we were first approached, we made that clear. Last year, we paid over $7,000 for this service. That would cost me around $500 to take care of it myself. When we met with the advisory committee, we made the point that we were on the far eastern edge of this district anyway, so to cut us off would not cause any disruption to the work that needs to be done. The response was that the district was more uniform if Willett's was in because it is commercial. But if you look at the map, that's not the case. When you look at the boundary on the east side of the district, you see directly across the street from us on 50th, it is residential and not maintained by the district. Therefore, it is more uniform with us out. We only get snow removal and trash pickup in our service, and so we have to do that anyway. The property will not be maintained any differently if we are responsible for it. Therefore, it is not an accurate assessment of reality. It has been expressed at our earlier appearances before the council that we are getting services commensurate to the fees that we pay, and we strongly disagree. I sent some pictures. I don't have those with me here, but from a situation we had last winter, we had a heavy snow. One of the comments that came from the council last year was that we have a senior home across the street from us, and it was important that the sidewalk was maintained and quickly maintained. So the next day after this snowstorm, so it's 24 hours later, we still didn't have our sidewalk cleared, and in fact, the contractor pushed the snow onto our sidewalk. So you couldn't have got through there elderly, or you had to be a mountain climber to get across there. So what we did is we took care of it ourselves. And in that same event, the Chowan side never did get cleared. So we went out there and cleared that ourselves as well. So we didn't get the service that we needed in a time that we needed it the most. And so I don't want to debate anymore that part of the issue. We just feel that, look, we're much better off to do it ourselves. We've always done it ourselves. We don't feel there's any need for us to be part of this district. And so I'm asking again that we would be released from this.
Thank you. Thank you for that
Thank you.
update. We will now go on to Mr. Sykes. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Sykes. I am Vice President of a second-generation corporation that owns commercial property at 51st and France in Minneapolis. 5057 France Avenue South is the address. For full disclosure, I recently had to move from Edina to Hopkins. Being a retired person, that made more sense. I wanted to speak about, I'm also on the advisory committee, and I would like to speak a bit about the broader issues for the Special Service District. My father and his partners worked hard at trying to get this Special Service District since the late 1960s. We finally got it just a few years ago. We are in the shakedown cruise, if you will. We all got hammered by a large storm last year. And I want to emphasize that the main purpose of this is that this is not the only benefiting property of access, pedestrian access, and that's the goal. It is the eastern gateway of this business community. And as I said in my letter, I was able to rearrange my schedule at last minute, finally. That it's important to recognize that cars don't shop, people do. And people need to get from where they can park. And for the 50th and France commercial area, parking is a huge problem. It spills over into the residential areas. There is also a very large retirement and assisted living facility right across the street from the property that was just discussed. These folks need access to the rest of the commercial district, those who are mobile, and there are quite a few since it is also retirement. And this is the one signalized intersection at the eastern end of this district. Snow removal is key. Maintenance of a recognizable boundary is key. There is a business right next door to the Willette Bakery that is a participant in the district as well, and so they also need access, and people tend to, once they get there, tend to shop in the district. I don't know whether you know, but commercial real estate, particularly, well, I should say retail, in this country is the only sector of the economy that is declining. That is to say, brick and mortar retail. This is a brick and mortar retail business community. It's very strongly united by a business association because we are split between Edina and Minneapolis. The business association was formed by business people on both sides, property owners and business people. They've worked very hard to create a cohesive community. And finally, on the Minneapolis side, we have an organization that actually has the power to do things economically to improve that side of the business community. We are woefully behind the Edina side. The one area where we managed to show up Edina was actually in the snow removal. My tenants commented about how great it was to get the snow removal that was provided throughout the winter, that they didn't have to climb over snowbanks, they could get in. Being a good neighbor, being a participant in the community is important. This is a key property. So I would urge you to maintain the boundaries as we have recommended as we go forward. Changing the budget at this point would be very difficult. So unless there are questions of me, I think that's all I need to say. My letter, I think, speaks for itself. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And we have another person who signed in, Mr. Steve Young. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Steve Young, 3844 York Avenue, south of Minneapolis. I just wanted to add that I'm also a part of the Special Services District, and we certainly take Doug's concerns very seriously, and we've met with him on several occasions to talk to him about his concerns, and I hope that we address them and we'll continue to address them. We have in our attempt to address his concerns, we have removed all the side streets from the district, the snow plowing services. So this coming year, that will reduce, because he's on the corner lot, that will reduce his assessment in half. So I think that's, for us, a good first step to try and help out in any way we can. We were also very disappointed in the snow plowing services of the contractor that we hired during our big snow events, which is the time we need our contractor most. They had certainly failed us, and we hope that that won't happen again in the future. So we're working with the district and city staff and the contractor that we'll hire again this year to make sure that doesn't happen. So thank you.
Thank you for that update. I have no one else who signed in. Anyone else wish to come forward? Anyone else wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any further comments from council members? I think these are good comments. I appreciate the fact that the district is communicating with all participants, even if there is some disagreement amongst them. And of course, if the contractor is not delivering on the services you provide, that's a real concern, because you should get what you pay for. So, and I'm sure staff is, aware of that and understand that dynamic. And if there's no further conversation, I will move the item before us. Any further discussion from committee members? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That moves forward. And then we will go to item number 2, which is the West Broadway Improvement Special Service District, proposed services and charges.
Mr. Chair, committee members, Andrew Carlson, Minneapolis Public Works, Project Coordinator for Special Service Districts. So before us now, we have the West Broadway Improvement Special Service District, which is our one of our self-managed districts. The West Broadway Business and Area Coalition, a nonprofit corporation, serves as the WBID management entity. All services within the district are managed and delivered by the WBC via a contract with the city. Each year, the WBC recommends the services, estimated budgets, and service charge methodology for the coming year. These service charges would be collected on the 2019 real estate taxes in the same manner as special assessments. No interest will be applied. The standards and procedures set forth in Minnesota Statute 428A have been met in order to proceed with the public hearing, including a notice mailed to each property owner within at least 10 days in advance of the public hearing, and which included the proposed service charges amounts for each property. Also included in the mailing was a copy of the district's plan. I should also point out that plans were provided for the previous 428A districts to all property owners as well. And then lastly, I'll note that John Beakey, the new executive director for the WBC, is here today to also make a short presentation as part of the public hearing portion of the meeting. But that ends my comments. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions per the staff presentation? Seeing none, we will proceed with the other comments. Did you say there would be comments from the West Broadway representation?
Yes, Mr. Chair, council members, if you want to do that now, or if you want to open up the public hearing first, I guess that's up to you.
No, if it's going to be a presentation, we'll take that as informational.
Thank you. Hi, Chairman Reck. Presentation might be overstating it, comments on it. Thanks for having me. So I started as Executive Director of the West Broadway Business and Area Association in April. And so I inherited the West Broadway Business Improvement District in its coming into its 4th year of operation here. And I will say that meeting the board members and going into detail with the property owners and ratepayers, that it's a particular point of pride to have established the Broadway Improvement District up there. And to recap for you the history going back at least 2012, 2013, the property owners and the West Broadway Coalition collaborated together with Lake Street Council, Central Neighborhood, other neighborhoods in town to develop the proposal for self-management mechanisms for improvement districts, of which West Broadway currently is the one experiment in that that system. So our fourth year, we'll repetition in this fifth year and come back with more understanding of how this works to have a self-managed district, which in our case in North Minneapolis, in the long process of rebuilding trust with various city programs, it was sort of crucial to establish the district as self-managed so that the property owners were more directly in collaboration when we're spending the money and whatnot. That said, the services in here are fairly flat. It's just the increased costs, both in frequency of service and some just in the cost of doing business. I'll say in 2016, well, I'll put it this way. This is the first year in the 4 that we're seeing an increase in the budget, so it stayed flat at $105,000. And to manage that, there was some decrease in services in 2016, which were regretted. Ramped the services back up in 2017 to a little extra expenses that we found other resources for. So this is the first year that we're kind of bringing it into balance to update what the real costs of the services are. Yes, indeedy. And I think that's my comments. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
See no questions. Thank you for that update. And we're so happy that West Broadway's keep on keeping on. So
Thank you.
So with that, I will open up the public hearing, starting with people who signed in. John Beakey will come forth and state the name and address for the record. Oh, that was him. Oh, and thank you for making sure I knew how to pronounce your name. That was very helpful. I wish everyone did that. Then I'll go to Alex McCord. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Alex McCord with Better Futures Minnesota. Really, my aim here is just to echo John on the work and justifying the increase in the amount needed to do the servicing. What we do is we actually deploy the men that do all the work out there, and we have been since the inception of the bid. So actually kind of came on at the same time with John in April with Better Futures, and we've been uncovering where the numbers are and how to actually improve the area itself. Our men actually live in that area, so it's kind of twofold where we build a community of men and also inspire the other community. So we've been adding services such as meeting the business owners and engaging with the community and not just being a trash pickup service. So again, want to echo that the service is needed and the increase in the funds is needed as well.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And what a great example of getting multiple benefits from the effort. So thank you for that update. Alberto Berteman, come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Alberto Bertomeu, and I own a couple of properties on West Broadway. Thank you all for letting me speak. First of all, I think it's a very, very nice thing that's being done here, and I really applaud it. I think they could have been a little more creative in how they spend the money and the improvements they made, but they fell short of that. That being said, I would like if they would use not my money for that, but somebody else's money. This neighborhood is a neighborhood that is pretty challenged, and I think the city should enforce business owners to act properly, to clean up their mess, and to make this presentable. If I would show you pictures of how this neighborhood looks like, I actually wouldn't do that because I'm afraid my kids would watch me on TV and would be embarrassed for what I have to show. In many areas, it's a disgrace. And I don't know if the city is too busy to drive around and look at other things. There's abandoned cars parked there, junk, whatever. And we have the tenacity to talk about improving West Broadway. Well, sometimes I guess government is out of touch with reality. That's all I can say. So again, out of pure courtesy, I haven't brought any pictures with me because it is embarrassing. That's what I can tell you. Junk, cars that are so old, I don't even know the brand anymore, abandoned. We have crime there. We need to improve our city by providing better employment, by support business owners to make money. I'm investing my money in this neighborhood. I provide employment above minimum wage. I do my hardest, and I really don't want to spend my tax money on banners and flyers and a very prolific garbage retrieval service that I'm very happy to talk later about my properties. Maybe they want to pick up my garbage there, the people dump there. We are really going down the wrong path here. Government needs to realize where government stands. You do your job, that's fine. Stay away from business owners and managing our money. Right now, we're enjoying this wonderful boom, and I guarantee you it's going to come to an end. And then I'm going to be stuck with a 10-year assessment on this wonderful project that I cannot recoup because it's a real cost. The other thing, too, which is good because it shows you all how much we discriminate small businesses. This is done on linear square footage. And we pride ourselves how much we don't discriminate. So I will build a 4, 5, 6-story building and pay as much as a small independent owner on linear square footage. If you want to try to discriminate more, I don't even know how. So who dreams this stuff up? It should be by property values, not by linear square footage. That would be like me paying for my height going through an elevator versus a smaller person. I mean, that people have the tenacity to present this with a straight face. It's like, again, thank God, my kids are in school and they're going to watch this. It's embarrassment. It should be done on property valuations. You're discriminating deliberately against small businesses. I cannot pass on that cost to 40 tenants, like small and big developments. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Minneapolis will turn, thankfully. We're going to have big developments coming in. And all those big buildings will pay a lot less, and I cannot compete on a tax basis because they can pass on the tax increases to much more tenants. This is discrimination. I know it's going to go and it's going to be approved like everything else, but I think, I talked to a lot of fellow business owners, and you know what? I even came late because I'm trying to make a living. If they would come here and tell the same thing, like, what are you doing? Provide a better neighborhood, get better police out there, train people, and employ people, and don't just spend it on landscaping, on flags, on banners, on better, really? What are we paying taxes for? I know school, I know my tax bill. I look at it every day. It's coming out October 15th. So I have about 5 weeks to get my anger down before I pay my property tax for my properties. And we have special assessments that, by the way, never go away. They're 10 years. I think it's shameful for those people to present this. I'm telling you honestly how I feel about this.
Thank you for those insights. Anyone else wish to come forward? I don't have anyone signed in. Obviously the presentations are taken to heart. How we evaluate things should always be subject to review. And of course, the rubber meets the road, so to speak, with do you get the service that you expect for the money you put in? And I think that's a valuable insight. I'm heartened by the notion that we have active committees that are run and pretty much directed by the people who are the assessed. And assuming that process is open and fair and we make adjustments accordingly, I'll stand by recommending this as well as the previous one as something we'll move forward and approve. But it's always an ongoing process, and I thank Mr. Carlson for doing his work. Any further conversation or questions? Seeing none, I will move item number 2 as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting name. And we'll go to the final public hearing, item 3, the Downtown Business Improvement District.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Brett Celli, the Director of Business Administration for Public Works, will present information related to the Downtown Business Improvement Special Service District, and I'm pleased to see so many familiar faces and partners in the room today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Brett Celli. I'm the Director of Business Administration in the Public Works Department. I am in front of you this morning to introduce the public hearing on the 2019 services and service charges for the Downtown Business Improvement Special Service District, which is also known as the DID. This public hearing is required as part of the city's review and approval of the district's proposed services and service charges for 2019. The DID was established by Minneapolis Code of Ordinances, Chapter 465, in December of 2008 and began full services in July of 2009, excuse me. The district was renewed in 2017 for 5 years. In addition to establishing that 5-year term, the renewal also established the district boundaries and the properties included in the district. Each year, the DID's board, made up of downtown property owners, employers, residents, and leaders, establishes a budget for accomplishing their goals of making downtown Minneapolis clean, green, and safe. Public hearing notices and the proposed operating plan were mailed to all ratepayers. The DID hosted an open house on September 4th. Notices for the open house were advertised in a number of locations, including all hearing notices, the DID website, their newsletter, and in their pop-up office. The proposed 2019 service charges are $6,980,828. This is a 4.6% increase over 2018. And with that, I would like to introduce Steve Kramer, the President and CEO of the Minneapolis Downtown Council and the Minneapolis Downtown Improvement District, to give some highlights for their 2019 service plan.
Thank you for that. And good morning, Mr. Kramer.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Great to be here. Thanks for your earlier history lesson on the ABC ramps, once known as the TAD ramps, Third Avenue Distributor ramps. One advantage of getting old is you remember stuff that nobody really cares about anymore. So anyway, happy to be here to talk about the Downtown Improvement District. I'd say we're having a good year in 2018. Continue the core work around clean and green. Plus, we've had a very successful summer safety program in partnership with the MPD and other law enforcement and many community organizations. We've expanded our livability team to address social issues downtown. We've launched on Nicollet activation and programming. And as Mr. Celli suggested, we established a DID pop-up office at 655 Nicollet as a centerpiece for many of these activities. So as we look forward to 2019, the budget that our DID Budget and Operating Committee has crafted, which has been ratified by our board executive committee and submitted to the ratepayers and to you, the city, builds on this momentum. For the first year in several, the 2019 budget again reflects DID's operational responsibilities for the now completed Nicollet, along with continuation of several newer initiatives begun during the construction phase of Nicollet when certain historic DID expenses were reduced. These newer initiatives were called for our most recent strategic plan and were launched in recognition of changing conditions downtown and the commitment of the business community to respond to those conditions. The most prominent examples, I mentioned the livability team and the activation program. But now, because we're back on the job on Nicollet, even though the new design, we believe, will mean lower operating expenses compared to the old mall, and because we've now incorporated some of these new but necessary programming areas, next year's proposed budget is indeed larger than normal. As Brett said, the budget proposed increase for 2019 is 4.6%, which was fully supported by our Budget and Operating Committee, consisting, as you suggested, Mr. Chairman, of ratepayer representatives from across the district. Over the life of DID, I think it's important to note that the average increase year over year has been 1.57%. And in the future, after DID has again absorbed Nicollet operations and these new activities, we think that future increases are more likely to reflect that historic benchmark. So I just close by saying we very much appreciate the working relationship with Public Works, with the Police Department, and many other city departments. And of course, we very much appreciate the support from the City Council and from the Mayor's office. Thank you.
Thank you for those details. Any questions per the staff and representative presentation? See none. Much appreciated information. I will now open the public hearing for item number 3, starting with Mr. Don Keefe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but please come forward and state your name for the rest.
Yeah. Everyone calls me Keefe, but you nailed it. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. And what I have to say probably would have been better said at that September 4th meeting, but I work really long hours and I had a conflict and just could not make the open house. We run or own a parking property right off of First Avenue North and 8th Street. It's on the same block with the Lamoureux and with the Seville nightclub. I'm not here to speak against the program. You know, Mr. Kramer's done a great job for the city, and I think the program's been good for the city. The program, I don't think, has been good for us, and I think a large part of the reason is the ratios that are used work against us just due to the makeup of our property. We have 46 stalls in this little parking lot, but we have in excess of 300 linear feet of frontage. It's one of these quirky little corner properties. It's like a triangle, thus Triangle Associates. So, I mean, the ratio that would typically be in place, I don't think would equate to that many linear square feet per parking stall or per square foot of gross building area, what have you. So I think just from the get-go, I think the way that they arrive at the population density that works into this thing, namely the linear footage, the gross building area, and the frequency, speed of services needed, it just works against us. The same thing happens with gross building area. We have a building on it because they're Energy owns the air rights, and they have a little satellite plant there. Once again, I don't know how the gross building area works into the formula. I did put in a call yesterday to DID to get clarification. I never got a call back. So I can't speak to exactly how that is arrived at, but I have to assume that there are certain averages in play, that a building of 5,000 square feet typically has X number of employees and X number of patrons, so on and so forth. I can tell you that on average at any given time there is a total staff on that location of one person upstairs in that building at NRG. So in terms of our property contributing in any meaningful way to pedestrian traffic loads is erroneous. Secondly, this property is in the premium service classification. We are right across the street from a standard service level property. It's basically the ABC ramp, or the A ramp. I pay attention. I'm down there every day, and obviously standard is supposed to get less service than premium, but I've seen with my own two eyes that a property that is on the border also gets less attention than one that's further into the premium district. Very seldom do I see any ambassadors on our, what would that be, the 9th Street side. I do see them on the First Avenue side, but we've got an awful lot of frontage on the 9th Street side, and it's rare. In fact, I think I see ambassadors much more walking over along the A-ramp than I do along our sidewalk opposite the A-ramp. So once again, I think our location works against us in that regard. I don't want to see our property, or I'm not appealing this to try and eliminate our property from this program, but I would have an interest at some point of being moved from the premium to the standard classification and reduce the scope of services that we are to receive. The other issue that we have there is with respect to the services that are rendered mainly in the area of safe and clean. I do all the cleaning there myself, me and my staff. So, I'm cleaning up cigarette butts on the sidewalks. I'm unfortunately washing down urine inside our parking lot weekly, sometimes daily. I am removing feces and vomit from our lot weekly at a minimum. I think we try and do a really good job there despite what we're up against. And, if you saw Minneapolis through the lens that I see Minneapolis at that location, I can't help but think you would relate on a more personal level as to what we're doing there. These levels of assessments, this year we're going to pay over $8,000. That's $8,000 that I don't have available to increase security patrols through there, to put a CCTV system in there, to extend attendant hours during events. There's only a limited number of dollars available, and we are in a declining revenue situation with respect to that location. Part of it, I think, has to do with the Deaton's building going empty. I can't wait until they get that retasked and repopulated. Part of it is also due to, I think, some initiatives that the city has initiated and supported, such as bike lanes, reducing vehicular traffic on First Avenue North, getting rid of some of the livability laws that were on the books, such as spitting and panhandling and loitering. We see a lot more of that now than we did a few years back. So we just, we're really up against it at that location. A good day for us now is 50% occupancy. It used to be a slam dunk fill every day. It's no longer that way. So in terms of getting people out of their cars, I think the city's seeing some success, but from our perspective, it's hard to meet all the objectives that we're trying to meet, and we would be better able to spend these dollars effectively if we were doing it directly with our own contractors rather than through the program itself. So that being said, if you have any questions, I'm here. If not, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for presenting your perspective from your location.
Thank you.
We now have Mr. Brent Forrester. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Council member, or Chair Reich and council members, I'm Brent Forrester. I Meet Minneapolis Sports Minneapolis, and here to talk about support for the DID in our efforts to attract conventions and visitors and events to this fine city. The ambassador program especially helps us, is vital to what we do. Obviously, once we are successful in selling or marketing and attracting these events and tourists to our city, we have to deliver on that. We need to deliver a safe experience, a clean experience. Also, people being able to get around and frequent restaurants and get to various venues. The ambassador program has proven and shown up in our surveys and in talking with staff and even communicated to us by the event planners and meeting planners over and over again as one of the key assets that Minneapolis shows in really the experience of their attendees. Another item that comes up is safety, and I've seen personally over and over again where ambassadors have stepped up and being connected through with all, whether it be law enforcement or some of the other agencies that are out there, being able to step in and help with safety when it is making some of our visitors or convention attendees sometimes just uncomfortable. It often is a reassuring presence in a city. If you remember, many of these conventions are not, or attendees are not necessarily coming from a urban environment. They're coming from a rural area, and a large city like this can be overwhelming at times, and that is a reassuring presence that they provide us. And then lastly, and I think I'll just close with this, I talked about some of the direct effects of the ambassador program and the DID. I also want to reiterate we invested a lot of money in the Nicollet Mall. It is a great attraction for what we do, but being able to really activate that is really the second leg of that and very important to what we do. And then lastly, we are looking, at least in the business community, many of us have talked about, both employment, but then also the lack of employment in certain sectors and being able to attract future employees for our businesses and in many cases, future residents. And the experience people have of attending events and conventions often is indirectly tied to that person coming back, either if they're recruited by a business or wanting to work here one day. I think our own mayor has brought up many times he's ended up here due to a positive experience when coming here for the Twin Cities Marathon. So the ambassadors of the DID all contribute significantly towards that. So thank you, unless you have any questions.
I see none. Thank you for those comments. Moving down, we have Ted Campbell. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, staff. My name is Ted Campbell. I work for Ryan Companies here in downtown as a manager of commercial real estate. Ryan, as a benchmark, administers about 3.5 million square feet of commercial property within the Special Service District. I'm here to voice my support for the DID on behalf of Ryan Companies, our clients, and our tenants in these properties. The DID has dramatically improved the perception of the Central Business District, and I believe has contributed to the continued growth and success of both businesses and residents in the CBD. And so I'd like to see that continued for years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. I have no others signed in. Anyone else wish to come forward to make comment? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Steve Martinson. I work for SP Plus Parking. I am here in regards to a parking lot located at 1014 Hennepin Avenue, as described as lot number 3 and 8+. I'm here to just basically voice my opinion on disputing the assessment for DID in this area. In recent years, we have done a great deal to increase the positive parking experience for our customers at these 2 parking facilities. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars on lighting, fencing, and other maintenance staff to make sure that these areas are clean for our customers and clean and safe for our customers to park. With a big notable area is what's called as the Ramada lot, which is located right across the street from the shelter at 1010 Curry. And you know, I'm on this lot many times a day, as well as other staff with our company, and we do not see the DID presence down in this area. And so most of it's been relayed onto the parking operator to make sure that it's clean and safe for our guests. So I just want to voice my opinion and dispute the assessment.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to come forward and make comment to the public record and wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And I think in all of our public hearings, I think we do not dispute categorically the collective benefit. However, I think we should always take to heart the dissenting opinions that have been provided, both in terms of staff and in terms of the people who are governing or self-governing over these assets. People putting in should feel they get something out of it that's commensurate with what they put in. And I think those conversations are bearing fruit. You even heard from one of the dissenting opinions how adjustments have been made in the case of 50th and France. And I think that's the spirit that we move forward in. I will move this item forward, noting that we do have an ongoing process for conversation for all ratepayers. Any comment from the committee members? Seeing none, I will move this item. All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting name. That carries, and we have completed our agenda and thereby adjourned. Thank you.